Hello, everybody. Welcome to a conversation, a conservative conversation with Mr. Brandon Taylor. Brandon is the chairman of the Lawrence County Republican Party. Brandon, it's good to have you with us today. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us.
Well, thank you for having me, David. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate what you're doing in this county and those that are around you. I really appreciate it. And that's why I wanted to come over and be a part. I'm thank God for folks like
Well,
you.
thanks for driving over here and sitting down. I just want to toss this question to you and let you tell our folks
Okay.
what got you active in politics. What was the motivating factor that got you off the bench and up being a champion for conservatism?
Well, prior to COVID, I was what you might call a casual voter.
Okay.
I thought my vote didn't really count. I thought, well, if I go vote, it won't matter. I would vote, and I felt patriotic about it. I would have the I voted sticker, and
Sure.
I even would carry my children and show them. But as far as being a motivated voter, I was not. A lot of times, I used the cliche of I would hold my nose and vote,
Okay.
and I've done that, so I understand what people are saying when they say that. Um, but when we went into 2020, as we were approaching March of 2020, and I saw that there was a movement across this country to absolutely put all of our constitutional rights on temporary hold, it absolutely woke me up and shook me to my core.
Yeah.
And it was amazing how they called it the woke movement was happening at the
Right.
same time. And I thought, I'm not woke, but I am awake.
Yeah.
And so I saw churches be closed. They were shut down, and then Walmart was open. I saw
Yeah.
mom and pop businesses, and then our government decided what was essential and what was not essential. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is starting to sound very familiar from some history books
Right.
of how the government's going to decide if you're a viable business or not. Okay, this fits into a lot of countries that are out there right now called communist.
Yeah.
And if you want to know, and our government should never have that much authority. And when I saw that, I thought, this has already gone too far, and I will not stand aside and watch this happen. As for me, David, COVID changed me forever. I will never be the same man that I was. There is a pre-COVID Brandon Taylor, and there is a post-COVID Brandon
All
Taylor.
right.
And I will never stand aside and watch them shut down small businesses folks work their entire lives for, almost go broke. And I watched this myself. I know a guy who makes signs for a living. And so businesses quit buying signs. And so this man literally reduced his business into his garage, just trying to keep his family
Wow.
fed during this time, just because the government said you can't go and your business can't function. Now, I believe in personal freedoms. If you don't want to go to that business, well, then look, we already created ways for you to go and get curbside service. We created that.
Yeah.
Our capitalist society is creative,
Right.
and we figured out a way around it. But the government almost broke this country, and I can't say that I want to go so far as say it was intentional, but it cannot be that it was purely neglect.
Right.
It was not out of ignorance. When you start shutting down businesses. And when I heard even President Trump say he was only going to be for 15 days, I thought that's garbage.
Yeah.
It will never be for 15 days. And so we watched it go through the 2020, and so I started becoming more and more active. And I'll tell you one of the things that I did. And if he was here, I'd say it right in front of him. As a matter of fact, I support him, and that's our local sheriff, who is your constitutional representative in your county. He is elected by the people. He's not an employee of the state. He's not an employee of the county. He's elected by the people. He is your closest thing to your constitutional representative in your county. I went to him because I kept having church. I wasn't going to shut down.
Yeah.
I told people in our church, I said, look, don't call me and ask me if I'm having service, and I won't call you and ask you if you're coming. Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. So we started having service. So I started getting threats. Well, Brandon, we're going to turn you in. And I mean, this is in 2020. Well, the only thing that did, David, was just add fuel to the fire.
Sure.
They already had a guy who was already motivated, and they just took gasoline and threw it all over him. So I went to our sheriff and I said, people are threatening me that they're going to call the police. And I said, I don't know what the policies are, because you don't have a constitutional leg to stand on to shut down a church. I'd like to see this really happen.
Yeah.
But wasn't it convenient they shut down the courts as well, so you couldn't challenge it? Wasn't that cute?
Yeah.
So I went to him and I said, I just want you to know who I am and where I'm at, and I'm going to be having church. And if you need to come on and arrest me, I'm going to make it easy for you. I'm not going to. I'll go willingly, and I'm going to fight this thing in court. But I'm telling you who I am, and I don't know you. And our sheriff stopped and looked at me, and he said, I'm going to tell you what, I would never shut down a church, and I'll never disarm a law-abiding citizen. And so I said, well, you want to come to our church and speak? So on September 13th of 2020, He came to our church and spoke, gave a 90-minute testimony of his life. We prayed over our law enforcement, and our church got behind. We support law enforcement. Law enforcement's a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
And our military, we support those things. And at that point, the political ball was moving. And I recognized at that point, not only did we need a constitutional sheriff, he needed us to stand behind him.
Right.
Because he was taking a lot of heat.
Oh, I'm sure.
And our county executive at the time did not put mask mandates on our county. We're one of the few counties that didn't have it. And people were calling him saying, you're killing babies, and all these things were going on. Well, that's bogus. It's not true. Number one, our county executive did not create the pandemic. And
Yeah.
if people want to go without a mask, that is their right. And to put a mask on a child is ridiculous, in my opinion. And any other time it would be considered child abuse.
Yeah.
So because it fit their narrative, though, things were allowed.
So let
to
me
happen.
ask you, where did this pushback come from?
Oh, the pushback against
for like they were calling you and telling you they're going to report you. Where did that come from?
It came from family members of folks in our church that, I hate to say it, but they were just liberal mindset people. And liberal mindset people believe the government should hand out all information to you,
Right.
and should tell you what's good for you, David, because you don't know.
Right.
And we're gonna form the CDC, the CIA, the ATF, and these people will help keep you safe because you're too stupid to figure out how to do it. And so all these people they called me, and they're like they call my wife, they call me, and at the end of the day, it could have even been well-meaning. Okay, I'm not even going to say that it was malicious intent, but it was fear, 100% fear motivated. And they didn't. It doesn't matter if you don't like what I do. If I'm not breaking the law, then you've got to just look the other way.
Yeah.
And so, people probably don't like the fact I'm having church now. I mean, there's probably people that drive down the street and don't like the fact there's a church there.
Of course.
Too bad. And I'm okay with them being against that. I'm okay if they're offended by the fact that I'm in my rights and my constitutional freedoms. And so these people were actually upset, and that was where the threats came from. But it got to the point to where I thought, because I seen things on the news, and I actually heard Bill Lee say, actually to my dismay, that he said he let it slip that they were watching the cell phone activity.
Yes.
If you remember that.
Yes.
Well, they took gasoline and just put another cup of gasoline on me, because I'm like, really, you're going to monitor my cell phone activity? I have people come to me going, well, should we turn our phones off when we come to church? And I thought about it. I thought, how out of bounds is our government when we've got to start turning off our cell phones? This sounds like North Korea.
It does.
This sounds like China. Okay. And so at that point, I was like, you know what? We need to let them enforce it. At some point, you got to say, okay, you said it. Now enforce it.
Yeah.
And I'm to the point now where I'm ready when they want to do that again. I've aligned some things, and I'm working on things to be ready politically, legally, where if they want to try to enforce it, guess what? This may happen. I even told my kids during this time, during COVID, I said, I'm not going to quit having church. But the threats came in so much that I told my children, I said, if I get arrested, don't be afraid. Don't be scared. I'll pay the money for the bail, and Daddy will be home probably before the sun goes down. And during this time, I continued to grow in our county and knowing our elected officials and things like that. But I wanted to prep my children just in case, because the threats were coming in and the conversations would come up, and my children would overhear the conversations from other adults in the room.
Right.
So I wanted them to know, hey, you know what? It's going to be okay. And I had to get myself prepared for that as well.
So that got your fire lit. And
Absolutely.
then the gas was poured on, and the gas was poured
And
on. And here we are today.
And they just keep pouring gas on it.
Don't stop. The gas can is full. Trust me. They keep
is.
on. They have plenty of gas in that tank. So here we are in 2023.
Yep.
And now you have expanded your reach outside of Lawrence County. You're sitting here in Bedford County now, and I know you go to other places and you talk. And what is your message to fellow conservatives? I'm not going to say fellow Republicans. That's another topic we'll talk about in a little while. But to fellow conservatives now, that we try to rally together and we stick together and we make a difference in our counties and we make a difference in our state. What is the message to people that you're taking out now?
Going on Facebook and typing in your complaint is absolutely worthless.
Right.
You have to show up.
Okay.
You got to be in the seats.
Right.
And you have to be present.
Right.
And I coined a saying during 2020: must be present to win.
Yeah.
If you want to win, you must be present. And it's like, on what level? On a county level, on a state level, and on a federal level. We must be present to win. We have to have a presence there. You're like, well, I vote and I send up an elected official. No, They're giving your voice and they're going to cast a vote in certain circles. But if you want to influence how that vote goes, you must be present. You
Right.
have to go. And so I see a lot of conservatives and they get frustrated. Okay. And I am sick to death of the old saying, "Pry it out of my cold dead hand."
Right.
They won't pry it out of your cold dead hand. You will hand it to them and give it to them right out of your sweaty palm.
Right.
Because I've watched people that say they would do that and then lay down their rights and lay down their freedoms. Not me. I'm the guy and I don't want to lead some sort of riot. I don't want to do that.
Not.
What we have to do is we have to be motivated, politically speaking, to where we get people out of the office that are not going to stand up for our rights and freedoms. If they're afraid, go home.
Exactly.
Okay? If you're afraid, don't run. We have a lot of people that run for office that shouldn't, and that's frustrating to a lot of folks. And so you have the old saying, I know we've talked about it. I don't know where, if I want to bring it up now or not, but I have saying that the ballot box or the ballot machine is like a vending machine. And so you walk up to the vending machine and you got a choice.
Right.
And this is true with a ballot machine. Whoever owns the vending machine owns the selection.
Yeah.
This is true. You don't buy Coca-Cola out of a Pepsi machine.
No, you don't.
You don't buy Bud Light out of a Coca-Cola. Whoever owns the machine owns the product.
Right.
Okay, that's the way it's going to work. So whenever we walk up to a voting machine, we have got to be the one who is stocking the product in there.
Yeah.
And I want conservatives to recognize that. And I hope pushing this message out there and seeing a snowball effect, and this thing's growing. And matter of fact, I think it's more of a spiritual thing than anything.
Right.
Really and truly, I don't want to compel people and use fear to get people motivated. No fear, they're going to come take your rights. You shouldn't be motivated out of fear. You should be motivated out of the threat that these treasonous people are trying to destroy your country. They're trying to destroy your state. They're trying to make it to where you can't afford the right to own private property by raising the taxes so high. When we start seeing in the state of Tennessee that we can't own a farm because property taxes are like paying a payment, you never get the property paid for. You owe the government for that property till you die.
Right.
We have a real problem.
Yeah.
And people have just become accustomed to accepting it. So to the conservatives out there, I say, come to the meetings, get involved. If you want to get on Facebook, I'm not telling people not to get on Facebook, but Facebook's not the platform for freedom of speech. They put you in Facebook jail, which is what you want to. If you want to know what they're doing, they're softening the target to make it to where in the future they can limit your freedom of speech.
Right.
Or they're going to put you in jail for your freedom of speech.
Right.
I wish Facebook would go broke. I mean, that's my opinion. I would love to see.
Yeah.
I would love to see Chapter 13. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that got me motivated. But I'm hoping that as we get out here and get folks to where they see someone's actually getting involved and where we have a clear message and we have to have a vision. So what's the vision? We're going to have to get unified across the state, and we're going to push back. Otherwise, they're going to come after. We've touched on Second Amendment. We've touched on a lot of things talking here this evening. But I've told people, you put your firearm in your car in Tennessee and get on I-65 and start driving north, and eventually you'll be a felon.
Yes.
Put your firearm in your car and get on I-40 and drive west, and eventually you will be a felon.
Yes.
Don't tell me they can't do it here.
Yeah.
You are asleep. You are asleep if you think that it won't happen here. So I think that I think it's happening. I see the snowball effect. I see people getting involved, and I think there's a lot of people that's got gasoline thrown on them just like I do. They don't know the direction they want to go. But when they hear your program like yours or one like our radio program on WDXE, or when they see us at a meeting, and I go anywhere I get a chance. I mean, if somebody invites me to church, I'm going to go. Somebody invites me to a barbecue dinner, I'm going to go. You invite me over to a radio program, I'm going to go because I want to get the message
Let's
out.
stop right now and give a plug. November the 9th, you will be able to hear Mr. Taylor speak at the Conservatives of Bedford County meeting at 7 p.m. at the Bedford County Ag Center. He's going to be with us that night. He's going to share with the group some of the same thoughts you're talking about here, but he's also going to go a little bit further and meet some of you guys. So be sure to come to that meeting. It's going to be very important. There's a lot of information we'll be passing out about the organization of Bedford Conservatives of Bedford County, some legal issues that we're jumping through right now so that we can become an official organization and do it right.
Right.
So we look forward to having you for that.
Yeah.